Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about white male executive underemployment. Now, there's a few things that feed into this, such as the gig economy, the rise of the massive human resources departments that are filled with diversity and inclusion officers, the gender and race quotas, and the idea of getting rid of straight white males to make the business more, or make the company or government department, make the employee list more, as they would call it, diverse. No one points out that the benefits of this diversity and inclusion. They keep talking about diversity as our strength, but the truth is it's the exact opposite. Diversity is our destruction. Diversity is our lower standard of living. Diversity is our increase in crime. Diversity is a less professional service. Diversity is lower quality products. Diversity is an economy that's going downhill fast. Diversity is a body politic that no longer represents the voters. And I could go on here, but diversity is definitely not a strength in any context. Or maybe in a street of restaurants or something. But coming back to this, a few years or some years ago now, there's a former colleague of mine. He's like the EVP of this medium to large, or by Australian standards, medium to large business or company, and he sort of tracked me down and said, "Hey, do you want a VP's gig?" And it paid quite well, and I kind of wasn't interested. I didn't want to piss him off or annoy him or suggest or imply a lack of gratitude for him thinking of me and giving me a call. So we all like to get tapped, I guess. He said, "Well, are you interested? Because then I'll pull the trigger on getting the process started." So I sort of ummed, and I thought, well, I should at least listen to what they have to say and what's involved, and you get a firm understanding what's required. And because I didn't really want to go through the pros like I did when I was younger, of working 5 million hours a week and that sort of thing. And back then, I was well paid. I got no complaints. And when you've got the mortgage and the school fees and the car payments and the school kids' excursions and so on, you need a lot of money to pay for all that. And I took that responsibility to providing the family very seriously indeed. And so, but that's doing. I'm older now, and I don't have to bust my ass and live in permanent fear of getting fired or displeasing the CEO or something. That's got a certain stress all of its own. But anyway, so I go along to the first call I get is from some little teenage snot-nosed shit punk out of HR. I mean, she's clearly sort of brought up on the housing estates. She's, I don't know, 17 or something, and doing some human resources course at some 99th tier college somewhere, some community college, and somehow they decided to send her to do the initial round of and more an administrative thing than anything. And I appreciate it wasn't a high-powered sort of interaction, but they're looking at hiring and selecting a vice president of the company. So why would you send a trainee, a teenage snot-nosed trainee? And I didn't like the attitude to carry on. And I thought, why do I put it? I mean, if they're even doing that sort of thing, it means they're, in my view, an unprofessional outfit. I would never dream of doing that. I'm sure if it was another young girl admin job on the reception or something, like, sure, send the young person. But this is a VP's job, so you'd send someone a bit more senior to do the talking. But anyway, hey. So I mentioned this to the guy I knew, and he came back with something odd. It was words to the effect of, well, we've got a view here that if you can't get on with her, then you can't get on with anybody. And I thought, what are you talking about, you fucking moron? But that was the take. So it was what I'm leading up to. It was a deliberate, agent provocateur, if you like, a deliberate attempt to see if they could get you riled and annoyed by deliberately attacking what may be your sensibilities in this regard. And not that it overly concerned me, but I thought, why would you do it? Again, it's a VP's job, so at the very least, the VP of Human Resources, or if they were, say, off for the day, their immediate deputy should have made that call, in my view. But no, they purposefully chose the least qualified, snottiest nosed, attitude-filled bimbo to go and make the call. And I wouldn't be surprised if they primed her up. Here's a straight white male. Go and give him the shits, that sort of stuff. And I thought that was really, and that kind of summed up to me how a lot of HR departments are now. They're filled with people who have been trained to hate straight white males, that believe that diversity quotas in race and gender are fighting back against the evil man, Hitler. And they're actually doing fantastic work by getting rid of these competent, capable, straight white males. They're doing a wonderful thing. They're doing something fantastic for the community and for lesbianism and for blackness and all this sort of stuff. So they're doing they think they're doing good things, and they've been trained through school and college to actually believe that this is a good thing. All those straight white males, they cause climate change. They're causing the end of the planet. And so by not employing them, you're doing something for the planet and for the climate. You're stunning and brave. So these simple, stupid people are filled with these notions, none of whom have to take responsibility for any of the consequences of the stupid things they do. But it's almost like they're globalist apparatchiks. Their job is to fulfill the globalist project, get rid of all the capable straight white males, because they're the ones who are most likely to be doing the pushing back against the globalist project, and most likely to see the globalist project is going to destroy us all in the end. But nonetheless, but I've spoken to people since I said to the guy, look, I won't. I had to give him some excuse, like something else had come up, and I was going to explore that, so I had to gracefully bow out of the process. But there are other sort of things that I've come across, heard about. People have come to me and mentioned things. For example, one guy I know who said that he'd been through a number of interviews for a VP type gig, that divisional general manager type gig. Again, we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6 times the average wage here, so it's not like it's a junior gig or anything. And so he was advised by the CEO that they couldn't proceed or could not proceed with his interviewing or the recruitment process until he'd been signed off by a special lesbian committee within the HR department. So the special LGBT, but really driven by lesbians. And he reports that they were both white, so no black lesbians here. But they had to interview him, and they had to sign off on his, that he could even be allowed to continue being interviewed, let alone hired. And he was astonished by this and amazed by it, and I could see the look of sort of incredulity and disbelief on his face when he was telling me about it. he's being grilled by these lesbians. Did you have a problem with lesbians? Oh yeah, you say you don't. Yeah, prove it. If that's not an indication of the madness of the HR departments in the corporate world today, I don't know what is. And this is not a company that was, primarily reliant on government revenues, by the way. They still had a decent private sector sort of marketplace to sell to and support. So you wonder what on earth possessed them to to do that. Have a lesbian committee that has to approve even the hiring or the the interviewing of straight white males. Fuck. But again, they think they're doing the righteous thing. It's damn straight white males, fucking Nazis. We'll show them. We'll show them who's boss. Grovel before me, you fucking straight white asshole motherfucker. But there are things like this going on. You know, people are telling me, or certainly from what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing it from different causes, from different sorts of people as well, eminently employable people who are very well qualified and very good at what they do, very bright people. That alone is probably partial disqualification. I've had HR directors tell me, we can't hire competent straight white males because they make the other employees, particularly the affirmative action and the quota hires, they make the other employees feel bad about themselves, and we can't have that. So they'd rather hire more incompetent black lesbians than hire the straight white guy, and they would see this as an exercise in I don't know, what would you call it, social harmony, I suppose. But talking about these other guys that have come to me, said that the amount of interviews they have to attend and go through, this is for corporate type gigs, for large corporate type gigs, which tend to be the better paying and have the better benefits, and the overseas travel and all sorts of things like that. So they're desirable, certainly from the pay packet and benefits point of view. So, but they have to go through an endless array of interviews, and nearly all of which, like some of them being put through 20 interviews, and numerous, silly jump through hoops, sort of aptitude testing that some little idiot in the HR department has got from somewhere. Special aptitude test is supposed to find out, are you really secretly a Nazi? Are you really Hitler? And go through all these stupid things which suggest a degree of prejudice against straight white people that is just off the charts. But do they go through that? Because most of the interviews they're getting are really from HR operatives and the diversity and inclusion type ideological crowd, rather than say a line manager who might be technically expert in or operationally expert in the area of the company that they may be applying for the job in. Could be I don't know, technical or product design or sales or something, whatever it is. But they have to go through all these interviews of unrelated people, just ideological interviews, and it's tiring to be interviewed by somebody who you wouldn't, in a real world, you wouldn't piss on them, you wouldn't hire them to wipe your ass, but they're there in this position of power in the human resource departments as the executive director of lesbian diversity or something like that, but they still have the veto right over you. So, and this really irks people from number. I mean, obviously the waste of time, the silliness of it, the ridiculousness of it, that alone is enough to put people off. But the idea that somebody who would be unemployable in any reality, any known reality, these people would be unemployable other than on reception desks or pushing a broom. They're the ones who can force you to come to the desk, come to the table and explain yourself and apologise for your whiteness and beg forgiveness for your whiteness and that sort of thing, while they obviously enjoy and I've seen this, they obviously enjoy the twisted, perverse power they have over these damn white fascist Nazis, as they would see it. So, there's a lot of guys that are, again, well qualified people are saying, well, do I really want to have to go through that bullshit? Just the time it takes. Now, this is not to be confused with, say, a matrix situation where you may have a number of colleagues in different departments and areas you may have to interact with, and therefore you have additional interviews because they all want to have a say in it, or at least have some sort of contribution to the pro. It's not that. It's simply the overhead of the HR department, the ideology and the diversity and inclusion, and like that lesbian committee that I mentioned a little earlier on in the video. So what these guys are saying is, and I'm getting this feedback some more often, is saying, well, look, why do I want to put myself through that? Why do I want to be on my hands and knees crawling to the lesbian committee, who are highly prejudicial in their treatment of me, and that sort of thing? Why don't I go to a lesser job down the road, or on the corner, or up the way, where I don't have to jump through all those hoops? Now, it pays less, the benefits are less, but I don't have to jump. I don't have to crawl across the cut glass. I don't have to humiliate myself going through that absurd and ridiculous, anti-white male that looks like it's constructed solely for the purpose of being anti-white male. Why do I have to go through that? Why not go to somewhere it's a bit easier? Sure, I get paid less money. Sure, I'm not using all my talents, assuming that they even would at the other place. But they can start later in the morning, finish earlier in the evening, and it's less stress all around. So they're purposefully going for, and this is straight white males, of course, they're purposefully going for lesser jobs on lesser pay, where they can make a lesser contribution to the nation and to the community and to the business and so on. Or maybe not in some instances, maybe in a smaller business you're closer to the action or something like that, but nonetheless, where they don't have to go through it. So in these smaller companies, they can have a job nailed in 2, maybe 3 interviews tops. So there's none of this 20 interviews, none of this huge HR department, diversity and inclusion officer bullshit to go through. So that's attractive for a number of reasons. On top of that, they don't have the diversity and inclusion Marxist ideology constantly in their face, where there's a lot of stress there, because not only can you not come off with an offhanded joke or an offhanded remark or anything like that. There's also a number of other, and I've experienced this too. I used to, when I was in the corporation, I used to, for one of the women would knock on my office door, and this is, one I'm thinking of at the moment, I was the CEO, so there's no one else I could go and blame. They'd knock on the door and want to come in, and they'd want a private chat, they'd want to close the door, and holy shit. Because you're instantly in an exposed situation. If they say that you behaved inappropriately, then you've got a real problem. Effectively, you did. The prejudice in that is huge. Don't you know that all women are being raped every second of the day in the workplace and so on? So you have to be very, very careful. You can't come out with any offhanded humour and so on. So I was very, very careful on what I said and what I did, and kept very much aloof from people who looked like they were going to or potentially cause trouble. Now, it didn't mean they wouldn't be rewarded for their hard work or good work. If they did it, they would be. But you just had to be that little bit more careful. And that's a workplace that's been created by the radical feminists that to me benefits nobody. Because of the quotas that they have, they can argue that they've achieved some sort of social benefit, but I don't see it in the overall scheme of things. I don't believe that at all. So these guys are going off and doing this other work, which means they're underemployed, maybe considerably underemployed. And the difference, say using just round numbers of $100 that they're getting paid, they're walking away from a job that pays $130, for example. Or more. So there's certainly a difference financially, but they're arguing that just the lower levels of stress involved in not having to deal with the diversity, inclusion, madness, Marxist madness, that it's a better deal for them. Would they like to be making the bigger bucks? Well, sure, but they don't want to have to go through that diversity, inclusion, Marxist madness to get it. And that, I think, from what I can tell, is forcing, and it's not sort of encouraging them to. I think it's forcing them to go and look at these lesser jobs where that sort of madness is maybe not absent, but certainly less prevalent. And I think that's having a wider effect. Well, I think it is. It is having a wider effect on the community. When I look at the amount of men, I kind of missed it really, because I was getting a lot of this feedback from various people that I know and have worked with previously, and I didn't, for some reason, the penny didn't really drop. But thinking about it recently, I think it's actually quite a big issue. And until we address this workplace madness and the affirmative action and diversity inclusion and all this sort of stuff, until we address that, then we're not going to we're not going to return to a situation where workplace productivity and ongoing organisational development and things like that can start to raise our standards of living. Our standards of living are in free fall because we've got too many idiots being put in too many jobs. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.